Alright, before I play this video, I have to say one thing, that this video was truly painful to watch. Extremely painful to watch.
What concerns do you have about Vice President Harris's ability to beat Donald Trump if she were at the top of the ticket?
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there. Number one. The fact is that the consideration is that I think I'm the most qualified person to run for president. I beat him once, and I will beat him again.
Let's take a moment to focus on the fact that Joe Biden has no idea who his vice president is right now, because he refers to Trump as his vice president, but then refers to Trump as she in regards to being able to take office. Sounds a little dementia-oriented to me. Now, in this segment of the video, Biden shifts the focus by downgrading Trump, talking about his golf game, to take away from the stupid mistake that he made in the debates, and then he tries to blame his staff for adding extra things on top of it.
Yeah, I served in the Senate a long time. The idea that senators and congressmen running for office worry about the ticket is not unusual. And I might add, there are at least 5 presidents running or incumbent presidents who had lower numbers than I have now, later in the campaign. So there's a long way to go in this campaign. And so I'm just going to keep moving. And because, look, I got more work to do. We got more work to finish. There's so much, we've made so much progress. Think about it. Think about where we are economically relative to the rest of the world. Name me a world leader who wouldn't want to trade places with our economy. We've created over 800,000 manufacturing jobs, 1.5 million, so things are moving. We got more to go. Working class people still need help. Corporate greed is still at large. Their prices, the corporate profits have doubled since the pandemic. They're coming down, and so I'm optimistic about where things are going.
How can you say you'll be up for that next year, in 2 years, in 4 years, given the limits you've acknowledged that you have today?
The limits I've acknowledged I have?
There's been reporting that you've acknowledged that you need to go to bed earlier and your evening around 8.
That's not true. Look, what I said was, instead of my every day starting at 7 and going to bed at midnight, it'd be smarter for me to pace myself a little more. And I said, for example, the 8, 7, 6 stuff, instead of starting a fundraiser at 9 o'clock, start at 8 o'clock. People get to go home by 10 o'clock. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, and if you look at my schedule since I made that stupid mistake in the campaign, in the debate, I mean, my schedule has been full bore. I've done, where's Trump been? Riding around in his golf cart, filling out his scorecard before he hits the ball? I mean, look, he's done virtually nothing. And I have, I don't know how many, don't hold me to, roughly 20 major events. Some with thousands of people showing up. And so I just think it's better. I always have an inclination, whether I was playing sports or doing politics, just to keep going, not stop. I just got to pace myself a little more. Pace myself. In the next debate, I'm not going to be traveling into 15 time zones a week before. Anyway, that's what it was about. That's what it was about. And by the way, even with that, I love my staff. But they add things all the time at the very end. I'm catching hell from my wife for that. Anyway.
Officials here are saying off the record that your decline has become noticeable. Hasn't this now, frankly, become damaging for America's standing in the world? Thank you.
Did you see any damage to our standing in my leading this conference? Have you seen a more successful conference? What do you think? And the Putin piece, I was talking about Putin, and I said, and now at the very end, I said, Putin. I said, no, I'm sorry, Zelensky. And then I added 5 other names. Look, guys, the idea anybody suggests that we haven't had an incredibly successful conference. How many times did you hear in that conference, I know it sounds too self-serving, but other leaders, heads of state, in thanking me, saying the reason we're together is because of Biden, because Biden did the following. Look, folks, this is, well, anyway, I thought it was the most successful conference I've attended in a long time, and find me a world leader who didn't think it was. I'm ready to deal with them now and 3 years from now. Look, like I said, I'm dealing with Xi right now and direct contact with him. I have no good reason to talk to Putin right now. There's not much that he is prepared to do in terms of accommodating any change in his behavior. And, but there isn't any world leader I'm not prepared to deal with. But I understand the generic point is Putin ready to talk? I'm not ready to talk to Putin unless Putin's ready to change his behavior. And the idea, look, Putin's got a problem. First of all, in this war that he is supposedly have won, and by the way, I think, don't hold me to the exact number, but I think Russia had 17.3% of Ukraine that they conquered. Now it's 17.4. I mean, in terms of percentage of territory. They've not been very successful. They've caused horrible damage, loss of life, but they've also lost over 350,000 troops, military, killed or wounded. They have over 1 million people, particularly young people with technical capability, leaving Russia because they see no future there. They've got a problem. But what they do have control of is they are very good at controlling and running the public outcry that relates to how they use mechanisms to communicate with people. They lie like hell to the constituencies. They lie like hell about what's going on. And so the idea that we're going to be able to fundamentally change Russia in the near term is not likely. But one thing for certain, if we allow Russia to succeed in Ukraine, they're not stopping in Ukraine. I recommend, I know you know this because you've written about it, read Putin's speech after they moved in, what it was all about in Kyiv. It wasn't about just, anyway, read what his objective is. And anyway, but so I think that I'm prepared to talk to any leader who wants to talk, including if Putin called me and wanted to talk.
Are you fully determined on running in November as the party's nominee?
I'm determined on running, but I think it's important that I allay fears by let them see me out there. Let me see them out, for the longest time it was, Biden's not prepared to sit with us unscripted. Biden's not prepared to, anyway. And so what I'm doing is, and I've been doing, I think we've done over 20 major events from Wisconsin to North Carolina, to demonstrate that I'm going out in the areas where we think we can win, where we can persuade people to move our way, or people are already there. And here, look, the other thing is, we have the most extensive campaign organization of anybody's had in a long, long time. We have well over 1,000 volunteers knocking on doors, making phone calls, making tens of thousands of phone calls. We have headquarters, I forget exactly how many, I don't want to cite a number and then find out I'm off, but we have scores of headquarters in all the toss-up states. We're organized, we're moving, and that's awful hard to replace in the near term.
In the following portions of the video, you can see that Joe Biden doesn't even know who he's talking about, whether it's Putin or Vladimir or whoever. He's extremely confused. And when he talks about how they say this, that, and the other, they're just controlling the narrative just like the Democrats do and just like the Biden administration does. So I don't see how he's any different from them when the Democrats do everything in the world to try to control the narrative.
Anyway.
Officials here are saying off the record that your decline has become noticeable. Hasn't this now, frankly, become damaging for America's standing in the world? Thank you.
Did you see any damage to our standing in my leading this conference? Have you seen a more successful conference? What do you think? And the Putin piece, I was talking about Putin, and I said, and now, at the very end, I said, here, I mean, Putin. I said, no, I'm sorry, Zelensky. And then I added 5 other names. Look, guys, the idea anybody suggests that we haven't had an incredibly successful conference. How many times did you hear in that conference, I know it sounds too self-serving, but other leaders, heads of state, in thanking me, saying the reason we're together is because of Biden, because Biden did the following. Look, folks, this is, well, anyway, I thought it was the most successful conference I've attended in a long time, and find me a world leader who didn't think it was. I'm ready to deal with them now and 3 years from now. Look, like I said, I'm dealing with Xi right now and direct contact with him. I have no good reason to talk to Putin right now. There's not much that he is prepared to do in terms of accommodating any change in his behavior. And, but there isn't any world leader I'm not prepared to deal with. But I understand the generic point is Putin ready to talk? I'm not ready to talk to Putin unless Putin's ready to change his behavior. And the idea, look, Putin's got a problem. First of all, in this war that he is supposedly have won, and by the way, I think, don't hold me to the exact number, but I think Russia had 17.3% of Ukraine that they've conquered. Now it's 17.4. I mean, in terms of percentage of territory. They've not been very successful. They've caused horrible damage, loss of life, but they've also lost over 350,000 troops, military, killed or wounded. They have over 1 million people, particularly young people with technical capability, leaving Russia because they see no future there. They've got a problem. But what they do have control of is they are very good at controlling and running the public outcry that relates to how they use mechanisms to communicate with people. They lie like hell to the constituencies. They lie like hell about what's going on. And so the idea that we're going to be able to fundamentally change Russia in the near term is not likely. But one thing for certain, if we allow Russia to succeed in Ukraine, they're not stopping in Ukraine. I recommend, I know you know this because you've written about it, read Putin's speech after they moved in, what it was all about in Kyiv. It wasn't about just, anyway, read what his objective is. And anyway, but so I think that I'm prepared to talk to any leader who wants to talk, including if Putin called me and wanted to talk.
Are you?
I think what the scariest part about this video is this was supposed to be a press conference about the NATO or United Nations meeting that he had to discuss how things were going in terms of the 2030 agenda for sustainable development that was originally done during the Obama administration in 2015. All right, so I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into this United Nations, the 2030 agenda for sustainable development. In case anybody hasn't seen it, It is actually published online. Anybody can go and look at it and read it. I will have the link or the address for the website at the end of the video if you want to go on there and read it. Every 4 years they do an update. This original agreement was signed and took place in 2015 before Trump ever became president. They did a review and a progress report in 2019. And then they just did another review and progress report in 2023. Both of those reports are also available online under the same address that I will be giving you at the end of the video. There are a lot of things about this sustainable development agenda that is actually rather scary, because most people don't know what they talk about at these meetings with the United Nations when all the world's leaders and allies come together to discuss certain facts. But, and I'll read this off for you, there are certain things in the agenda that they focus on the most. The people, planet, prosperity, peace, partnership, and then they have 17 separate goals. Goal number 1, end poverty in all its forms everywhere. Goal number 2, end hunger, achieve food security and improve nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. Goal number 3, ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. Number 5, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. We'll get back to that one. Goal 6, ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. 7, ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. 8, promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. 9, build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. Number 10, reduce inequality within and among countries. 11, make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Goal number 12, ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. 13, take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. And they even have an asterisk next to that one. Number 14, conserve and sustainability use the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. 15, protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainability, manage forests, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation, and halt biodiversity loss. 16, promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. And goal 17, strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. Those are the 17 goals of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. What is kind of scary about this information is the language and terminology that they used. So let's say, for example, under the header of peace, I'll read this to you. We are determined to foster peaceful, just, and inclusive societies which are free from fear and violence. There can be no sustainable development without peace, and no peace without sustainable development. Alright, my question to everybody is, how do they plan on making all societies free from fear and violence exactly? If there can be no sustainable development without peace, and no peace without sustainable development, how is this ever going to be accomplished? There are far too many cultures, views, civil liberties, and rights that people have already to protect against violence and other things. So how exactly do they plan on making this work? On the other category, partnership. It says, we are determined to mobilize. And I'll get back to that. But mobilize the means required to implement this agenda through a revitalized global partnership for sustainable development based on a spirit of strengthened global solidarity, focused in particular on the needs of the poorest and most vulnerable, and with the participation of all countries, all stakeholders, and all people. The interlinkages and integrated nature of the Sustainable Development Goals are of crucial importance in ensuring that the purpose of the new agenda is realized. If we realize our ambitions across the full extent of this agenda, the lives of all will be profoundly improved and our world will be transformed for the better. My question is, I'm a veteran. Certain terminology that they use kind of strikes me a little bit different than does most people. When I hear the term, let's just say, why use terms like mobilize, which is commonly referred to in a military term when talking about partnerships? Mobilize generally means to mobilize the troops in order to make sure that something is done according to plan. And then in the declaration section, it goes on to say, we recognize that eradicating poverty in all its forms and dimensions, including extreme poverty, is the greatest global challenge and is an indispensable requirement for sustainable development. When I hear the word eradicate or eradication, to eradicate something means to do away with it completely. To wipe it off the face of the earth, make sure it never exists ever again. So I'm not sure exactly how they plan to eradicate poverty and homelessness and everything else. For those, the terminology is extremely hostile and on the border of genocide, actually, if you really want to get down to it. You talk about mobilizing troops in order to eradicate poverty and homelessness in order to make a better country or better countries. And then it goes on to say, under their vision, we envisage a world free of poverty, hunger, disease, and want, where all life can thrive. A world free of fear and violence. A world with universal literacy, with equitable and universal access to quality education at all levels, health care and social protection, where physical, mental, and social well-being are assured. A world where we reaffirm our commitments regarding the human right to safe drinking water and sanitation, and where there is improved habitats, where there is improved hygiene and where food is sufficient, safe, and affordable and nutritious. A world where human habitats are safe, resilient, and sustainable, and where there is universal access to affordable, reliable, and sustainable energy. Then it says, we envision a world of universal respect for human rights and human dignity, the rule of law, justice, equality, and non-discrimination, of respect for race, ethnicity, and cultural diversity, and of equal opportunity, permitting the full realization of human potential and contributing to shared prosperity. To ensure it invests in its children and in which every child grows up free from violence and exploitation. A world in which every woman and girl enjoys full gender equality and all legal, social, and economic barriers to their empowerment have been removed. A just, equitable, tolerant, open, and socially inclusive world in which the needs of the most vulnerable are met. So, like I said, we'll go get back to where they keep talking about the women and girl being empowered and enjoying the full diversity and everything else. Nowhere in any of this does it talk about men or males in the society. They're focused so much on women and girls and gender equality and all of the inclusiveness and diversity and everything, just as if they're doing nothing more than promoting transgenderism and the LGBTQ movement and everything else. Everybody has a right and their own belief to what they and how they feel about transgender people, LGBTQ, and I'm not going to try to stir somebody one way or the other. The only thing I can say from my personal opinion, you do you, but don't you force your beliefs on me. Don't try to make me reassure or reaffirm your delusional thinking that you believe that you're a man, but you're a woman, or you're a woman, you believe you're a man, because just because you have pronouns doesn't mean I have to use them. It's not law, it's not policy or anything else. If you're a man, you're a man. If you're a woman, you're a woman. That's how I believe it, and so be it. And then it goes on to say, let's see here. A world in which every country enjoys sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth and decent work for all. One in which democracy, good governance, and the rule of law, as well as an enabling environment at the national and international levels, are essential for sustainable development, including sustained and inclusive economic growth, social development, environmental protection, and the eradication, once again, they use the term eradication of poverty and hunger. So my question is, we have welfare, we have people that are on Social Security insurance, we have veterans who are on VA disability, everything else. The cost of living is so high. If you're only getting $700 a month Social Security or $1,000 a month VA disability, you're never going to get out of poverty. You're never going to be able to afford to have a house, feed yourself, or feed your family. So how do they plan on eradicating poverty and homelessness when it is just not feasible because of the way the system is set up? Are you just going to commit genocide and kill all the homeless people, kill everybody that's in poverty? I mean, what's the plan here? If you want to eradicate poverty and homelessness, how do you plan on doing that without killing a bunch of people? The terminology and the information that is in this is so scary, and nobody really knows about it. It's not published. It is published, but it's not put out there for everybody to know that it's published. The other thing that talked about, the last thing I'm going to touch on, is they always talk about the increase in global temperature. The sea level is going to rise. Everything is going to be underwater within so many years. In the past 39 years, these are actual facts. You can look them up online yourself. In the past 39 years, the sea level around Florida has only increased 6 inches. Early predictions showed that the majority of Florida should actually already be completely underwater based on the predictions of 39 years ago. But it never happened. The entire global warming, global temperature, the ozone layer, all of that is a scam to get more money pumped into the system for no reason. 39 years. Florida was supposed to be underwater by now. The sea level is increased by 6 inches. If you don't know what 6 inches is, it's probably about yay tall. Not very much. Not enough that anybody's going to notice. So, I do encourage you to go to the website that I'm fixing to post and review it for yourself. Go in and look at the 2019 progress report. Look at the 2023 progress report. And you'll see the difference between Trump and Biden from 2015 to 2019. There was not a lot of progress made because Trump fought against it. But when Biden took over between 2020 and 2020 and 2023, there was actually a good bit of progress made, which is not a good thing, by the way. Not based off of their agenda. It's not a good thing. So, like I said, I urge you to read it, analyze it, figure it out, base your own opinion off of what you read. I just wanted to hit some of the highlights and let you know that what is truly going on behind closed doors at these NATO conferences, that they fail to actually publish to everyone in America. They don't make it readily available. They put it on their website and hope nobody finds it, because by federal law, they have to publish it on their website. They just hope nobody ever sees it. That way nobody can contradict it, nobody can go against them or start asking questions. So, I urge you once again, go to the website and read it for yourself. I just want to thank each and every one of you for watching the video, and I ask that you please like, comment, and share. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And there's more content to come. So thank you for watching.